The night sky of Zeloria glowed with floating towers, silver bridges, and lights that danced like fireflies across the alien city. It was a world of wealth and power, where the richest lived in glass palaces that touched the clouds. Among them was Lady Vera, the most admired alien mother in the Empire. She owned crystal mines on 3 moons, starships with her family's crest, and lands bigger than most countries. People whispered her name with respect. The Millionaire Mother, they called her. She walked with grace, her robe shining like liquid gold, her eyes carrying both pride and sadness. Because behind all the riches, behind the endless parties and smiles, there was a pain no money could fix. Her only daughter, Lyra, could not walk. Since birth, the girl's legs had never moved. Alien doctors from the best hospitals said it was impossible to cure. They tried genetic therapy, nanobot injections, and even star-healing rituals from the priests of Volter Prime. Nothing worked. Every morning, Lady Vera carried hope in her heart, and every evening she carried disappointment back home. Lyra sat by the tall window of their sky palace, watching other children run through the glowing gardens below. She never complained. That made it worse. Her small, silent smile cut deeper into her mother's heart than tears ever could. One evening, while Lady Vera hosted another grand dinner for the city's elite, a small scene began outside the gates. A stranger had arrived. He was human. Zeloria rarely saw humans. They were from a distant blue planet called Earth. To most aliens, humans were simple, brave sometimes, clever maybe, but far behind in science and technology. Nobody feared them. Nobody cared about them. But this one was different. He wore no expensive robes, no glowing jewelry, no royal symbols. Just a dark coat with dust on the shoulders, as if he had traveled far. In his hand, he carried a small metal case, scratched and old. The guards stopped him, laughing. "This is a private event," they said. "No place for beggars or merchants." The man didn't argue. He just looked at the palace lights with calm eyes and said softly, "I am here for the girl." The guards frowned. "What girl?" "The one who cannot walk," he said. They laughed harder. "You came to heal Lady Vera's daughter?" Even the Emperor's doctors failed. "Who are you?" "Just a man," he said. When Lady Vera heard about the stranger, she almost ignored him. Many charlatans had come before, promising miracles and leaving with her money. But something in the guard's voice made her curious. She came out to the balcony and saw the human below. He didn't bow. He didn't shout. He just looked up at her with steady eyes, as if he knew her pain without words. "Leave him," she told the guards finally. "Let him stay in the guest quarters. I will speak to him tomorrow." That night, the palace was full of music and laughter, but Lady Vera's mind was restless. From her window, she saw the human sitting alone in the garden, his metal case beside him. He didn't eat the food offered to him. He didn't talk to anyone. He just sat there, watching the stars, as if waiting for something. Lyra, curious, rolled her wheelchair near the balcony and looked down too. "Mother," she whispered, "he looks different." Lady Vera nodded slowly. Yes, different, but she didn't believe in miracles anymore. The next morning, she met him in the palace courtyard. He stood quietly, hands behind his back. "What do you want for your help?" she asked coldly. He shook his head. "I want nothing." "Nothing?" "Only the chance to try," he said. "If I fail, you lose nothing. If I succeed..." He looked at the girl in the wheelchair. "She walks." Lady Vera studied him carefully. His clothes were simple, his face unshaven, his shoes covered in dust. But his eyes, they were not simple. They carried something she had not seen even in the greatest alien doctor's certainty. Still, she couldn't trust him so easily. "You think a human can do what alien science cannot?" she asked, her voice sharp. The man only said one sentence before walking away. "Your science forgot some things. Humans did not." That night, as the winds howled around the Sky Palace, Lady Vera couldn't sleep. The words kept echoing in her mind, and somewhere deep inside, for the first time in years, a small spark of hope flickered. The next morning on Zeloria began with twin suns rising slowly over the shining towers. The palace servants hurried through the halls, carrying silver trays and crystal pitchers. But Lady Vera didn't notice the busy world around her. She stood by the window, staring at the guest quarters below where the human stayed. She didn't trust him. Why would a human, a man from a planet with no starships bigger than a battleship, no cures for half the diseases Zeloria had conquered centuries ago, claim he could do what alien doctors failed to do? Still, she couldn't deny it. There was something strange about the man. He carried no arrogance, no begging words, no fear. He acted as though the entire empire didn't matter, as though he knew something the galaxy had forgotten. That unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. When she finally stepped into the guest courtyard, the man was already waiting. He was sitting under a tall silver leaf tree, his small metal case beside him. The case looked old, scratched, and dull, but he kept it close like treasure. He rose when she approached, but didn't bow like most people did before the millionaire mother of Zeloria. "My daughter cannot be used for tricks," Lady Vera said before he could speak. "If this is some game, I will throw you off this palace myself." He nodded once. "I understand." His voice was calm, too calm for someone standing before one of the most powerful women in the empire. "Then tell me," she demanded. "Who are you?" The man's eyes held hers steadily. "Just a healer," he said softly. "A healer?" She repeated with disbelief. "Do you know how many healers have stood where you stand? Do you know how many promises I've heard?" "Yes," he said. "And they all failed because they treat flesh and blood, but forget the one thing that keeps it alive." "And what is that?" she asked sharply. "The will," he said simply. "The mind. The spirit. Call it what you want. They heal the body, but the fire inside her." He paused, his voice dropping. "It's almost gone." Lady Vera stiffened. No doctor had ever spoken like this before. That evening, he asked to see the girl. Lyra was sitting by her window, sunlight touching her pale face. She turned when the stranger entered. He didn't bow or speak to her like she was broken. Instead, he sat on the floor across from her, like they were equals. "Do you want to walk?" he asked softly. Lyra looked at her mother, then at him. "Of course," she said quietly. "Not for your mother. Not for the empire. For you," he said. The girl blinked, then nodded slowly. "Yes, for me," he smiled faintly. "Then I can help you," Lady Vera almost interrupted. She wanted to demand proof, to ask what magic or science he had. But something in the way the man spoke stopped her. He didn't promise miracles. He spoke like a teacher who already knew the lesson would work. That night, when the palace grew quiet, Lady Vera went to see him again. He was in the courtyard, opening the strange metal case. Inside were no glowing alien tools, no nanobots, no scanners. Just old, simple things, tiny wires, a vial of dark liquid, pieces of metal shaped like nothing she recognized. "What is this?" she asked, surprised. "This is not science." "No," he said without looking up. "This is older." "Older?" He finally looked at her. "Your empire races among the stars, but it has forgotten what it used to know before machines did all the work. Humans kept some of it. We kept the old ways." Lady Vera felt a chill. "You speak as if we have lost something important." "You have," he said. "That's why your doctors fail. They fix the body but forget the soul inside it." She stared at him. "Are you saying you heal with spirit?" He closed the case. "Call it what you like. It works." The next morning, news of the human spread through the palace. Servants whispered in corners. Guards joked that he was probably a fraud. Some nobles laughed openly. But when Lyra came to breakfast with a spark of hope in her eyes for the first time in years, Lady Vera felt something she hadn't felt in so long: fear and hope tangled together. Fear that he might fail, hope that he might not. That night, the man came to her chambers with only one request. "Do not let anyone enter while I work," he said. "No guards, no servants, no council spies. If they come in, I stop." The girl must feel safe. Lady Vera hesitated. "Even me?" "Even you," he said softly. "She needs to believe, not feel watched." The mother's heart pounded. But she agreed. For the first time, she was letting a stranger, an unknown human, hold her daughter's future in his hands. The palace of Lady Vera had never been this silent before. Normally, music echoed through its golden halls. Servants hurried with crystal trays, nobles laughed over wine, and alien pets with silver fur ran across the marble floors. But tonight, everyone whispered, because tonight, the strange human was going to try what the Empire's greatest doctors had failed to do for years. And Lady Vera, the most powerful mother in Zeloria, was placing all her hope in a man who owned nothing but a small metal case and calm, unreadable eyes. Before the night began, the alien council sent a messenger. "My lady," he said stiffly, his voice full of warning, "you must not trust this human. He is an outsider. He could harm the girl. We cannot allow alien tricks inside our walls." Lady Vera's jaw tightened. She looked at her daughter, sitting in her wheelchair by the window, sunlight touching her face. Lyra's eyes had been empty for years, tired, quiet, almost resigned to a life without walking. But now, there was a spark in them, a spark that wasn't there before the human arrived. For that spark alone, Lady Vera was willing to risk everything. She turned to the messenger and said, "Leave. The council has no say in my daughter's life." The messenger tried again. "If this goes wrong, they will call you a traitor. They will say you brought danger into the palace." "Then let them say it," Lady Vera snapped. "I am her mother before I am their servant." And with that, the messenger left. Furious dot as the sun sank behind the towers, painting the city gold and red, the human walked into the palace courtyard. He carried his small metal case like always. He asked for nothing, no money, no titles, no rewards, not only trust. He turned to Lady Vera before they began. "If I do this," he said softly, "no one can watch. No council, no guards, no family." She hesitated. "Not even me?" He shook his head. "She needs to feel free, not like someone is waiting to see her fail. She must believe this is her moment, not yours." The words cut deep. Lady Vera had spent years deciding what was best for her daughter. And now this stranger told her to let go, but maybe. That was what Lyra needed all along. Before leaving the room to him, Lady Vera looked into the stranger's eyes. "If you fail," she whispered, "you will break her heart worse than it already is." "I won't fail," he said calmly. "How can you be sure?" "Because I've done this before," he said. The words were soft, almost lost in the wind. But they carried weight. As night fell, the palace grew tense. Nobles sent secret messages, wondering why the Queen of Wealth was trusting a human. Servants gathered in dark corners, whispering that maybe the man was a miracle worker. Or maybe a madman. Inside the room, only Lyra and the human remained. He placed the metal case on a table and opened it. Inside lay strange things. Old wires, vials of clear liquid, tiny glowing beads, and something that looked like a crown made of silver threads. Lyra looked at it nervously. "Will it hurt?" she asked softly. "No," the man said. "But it will feel strange, like waking up after a very long sleep." The girl swallowed hard but nodded. "I'm ready." Outside the door, Lady Vera stood alone. For the first time in years, she felt powerless. She had fought empires, built fortunes, commanded armies. But tonight, all she could do was wait. She remembered Lyra as a baby, so small in her arms. Doctors had promised they would fix her legs. They never did. Each failure was like a stone added to the weight inside her chest. And now, after all these years, after all the money, power, and technology, it was a quiet human man with dusty shoes and tired eyes who dared to say he could help. Hours passed. The palace grew darker, quieter. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Then, at midnight, the door opened. The human stepped out slowly. His face showed nothing, no smile, no fear. "She is resting," he said simply. Lady Vera's heart pounded. "Did it work?" He looked at her for a long moment and then said, "Tomorrow she walks." The words fell like thunder. The servants froze. The guards outside stared. Lady Vera felt her knees weaken. Tomorrow? It sounded impossible, and yet, when she looked into his eyes, there was no doubt there. For the first time in years, she felt real hope blooming inside her. But far above the palace, in the towers of the Alien Council, others were watching too, and they did not like what this human might bring. The palace of Lady Vera stood like a shining crown under the 2 moons of Zaloria. Normally, its windows glowed with golden light, music filled the air, and laughter rose from the banquet halls. But tonight, the entire place felt frozen. Guards patrolled the walls in silence. Servants whispered in corners. Even the alien wind seemed to wait, because everyone knew something was happening inside the palace that no one had ever seen before. In the center of the mansion, behind tall silver doors, Lyra lay on a soft bed. The human stranger sat beside her, his metal case open on the table. The strange silver thread crown gleamed faintly under the moonlight. "You're not afraid?" the man asked softly. Lyra shook her head, but her small fingers clutched the blanket tightly. "All my life," she whispered, "people looked at me like I was broken. But when you talk to me, you don't look at me like that." The man smiled faintly. "Because you're not broken. You're just waiting." "For what?" "For this moment," he said simply. Outside the room, Lady Vera stood rigid as a statue. Every instinct told her to barge in, to watch what was happening, to make sure her daughter was safe. But the man's words echoed in her head. She must feel free. Not watched. Not pitied. It hurt more than any battle she had fought. She had spent years protecting her daughter, controlling every detail of her life. And now she had to let go completely for the first time. Inside, the man gently placed the silver crown on Lyra's head. Tiny lights blinked across it, humming softly like distant stars. "This will wake up the parts of you that have been asleep," he said. Lyra looked at him nervously. "And if it doesn't?" "Then I will try again," he said calmly. "Until it does." There was no doubt in his voice. No hesitation. He spoke like someone who had walked through storms and never lost his way. The moment the crown touched her skin, Lyra felt a strange warmth spread through her body. Not pain. Not fear. Like sunlight slowly filling her veins after years of darkness. She gasped softly. Her fingers twitched. The man nodded. "Good. It's working." The warmth grew stronger, running down her arms, her spine, her legs. Parts of her body she hadn't felt in years suddenly woke up like sleeping birds. For the first time since she was a child. She felt her toes. Tears filled her eyes. Outside, Lady Vera paced the hallway like a caged animal. Every minute felt like a year. She had faced alien emperors, stood in war councils, built a fortune out of nothing. But this was worse than all of it, because this time she couldn't fight. She could only wait. And she hated waiting. As the night deepened, strange things began to happen. The palace lights flickered. The air grew heavy. Even the guards outside felt something they couldn't explain, a pressure, like the whole building was holding its breath. One servant whispered, "What if it's dark magic?" Another muttered, "What if he kills her?" The Alien Council sent spies to watch from the shadows. They wanted proof, something to use against Lady Vera if this human failed. But no one dared go near the room. Inside, Lyra's legs trembled faintly. She gripped the blanket, her heart racing. I can feel them, she whispered. The man smiled slightly. Then stand, she froze. Now? Yes, before you start thinking you can't. She stared at him, then at the floor. Her legs felt strange, heavy but alive. Like doors long locked were finally opening. She tried to push herself up. Her arms shook, and then her foot moved, just a little, but it moved at that exact moment. The door burst open. Lady Vera stormed inside, unable to wait any longer. What's happening? Is she stopped. Her daughter was half standing, one trembling hand on the bed, the other clutching the man's arm. The mother's breath caught in her throat. For years she had dreamed of this moment. Now it was real. The plate of food she had brought slipped from her fingers and crashed to the floor. Lyra looked up at her mother with wide, shining eyes. Mother. I can feel my legs. Lady Vera stumbled forward, tears blurring her vision. She didn't care about the spies, the council, the whole empire watching. She fell to her knees, gripping her daughter's hands. Stand, my child, stand. The man stepped back quietly, letting them have this moment. The girl pushed again. Her legs shook like fragile branches in the wind, and then she stood, a single step, then another. The room fell silent. Lady Vera's tears hit the floor. After all the years, all the pain, all the failures, her daughter was walking, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The sound of the plate hitting the marble floor echoed through the entire palace. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. Lady Vera stood frozen, her hands trembling. Her eyes locked on the girl standing before her, her daughter, Lyra. She wasn't sitting anymore. She wasn't trapped in that cursed wheelchair. She was standing, and then slowly, awkwardly, like a newborn fawn learning to walk. Lyra took another step. The silence broke. Servants gasped from the hallway. Guards who had been leaning lazily against the walls now stood stiff, eyes wide. Word spread like fire through the palace. The girl walks. The girl walks. Nobles staying in the guest chambers threw open their doors, rushing to see if the rumors were true. Some pushed forward eagerly. Others hung back, afraid of what this might mean. Because in Zeloria, miracles didn't happen, not without a price. Inside the room, Lady Vera fell to her knees. She couldn't speak. Her daughter stumbled toward her, legs trembling but holding. For years, Vera had imagined this moment in dreams, had paid the finest doctors, had begged the council for help, had watched false healers take her money and leave with empty promises. Now, the impossible was happening in front of her. Because of a human stranger with nothing but an old metal case, Vera gripped Lyra's hands, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. My child, she whispered. My precious child. Lyra smiled shakily. Mother. I can walk. The words cut through the air like sunlight, breaking storm clouds. The human stood quietly in the corner, watching mother and daughter embrace. He didn't speak. He didn't ask for thanks or praise. But outside, the alien council's spies exchanged worried glances. If this was true, if a human could do what alien science could not, then the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. Lady Vera rose to her feet, still holding her daughter close. She turned to the human at last, her voice breaking. What did you do? She whispered. Woke her body, he said simply, and reminded her spirit. Vera shook her head slowly. You don't understand. This changes everything. My daughter, the council, the empire will want it. The human interrupted quietly. His eyes were calm, but there was a warning in them. They will demand the secret. They will not ask nicely. Vera froze. She knew he was right, because already, in the towers far above, council members were watching through crystal screens. The girl walks, one elder said sharply. And a human did it? Another snarled. If they can heal like this, What else can they do? What weapons do they hide? They say humans are primitive, a third murmured. But maybe we were wrong. The council chamber filled with unease. If a single human could perform miracles, what would happen if the entire species learned this power? Back in the palace, Lady Vera turned to the human. They will come for you, she said softly. For the secret. For her. I know, he said. Then why help us? Why risk it? The man looked at Lyra, who stood beside her mother, legs trembling but holding strong. Because some things are worth risking for, he said simply. By now, the palace was in chaos. Servants ran to spread the news. Nobles demanded to see the girl. Alien reporters sent messages racing across the empire. The millionaire's daughter walks, human. Healer behind Myri CLE. Strangers gathered outside the gates, shouting questions. And far above, alien warships shifted in orbit like restless predators. Lady Vera ordered the doors closed. No one else was allowed in. She stood close to the human. Listen to me, she said fiercely. You have no idea what storm you've started. The council will not let this go. They will want the secret. They will want you. The man didn't flinch. Let them want. Vera stared at him. You don't understand the power they hold. He met her gaze steadily. You don't understand the power you've forgotten. Something in his tone made her shiver. That night, Lyra walked through the palace gardens under the moons, her mother beside her. Servants followed at a distance, whispering. Some crossed themselves like she was holy. Others stared with suspicion, afraid of what this might mean. Above them, the sky rumbled faintly. Warships moving into position. Vera looked up. She knew this was only the beginning. And far away, in the council's secret chambers, a decision was made. The human must be taken, the elder said coldly. Alive if possible. Dead if not. That knowledge cannot stay in their hands, another voice added. And the girl? A pause. Bring her too. The news traveled faster than light, across the empire, from crystal cities to floating marketplaces. The story spread like fire in dry grass. The millionaire's paralyzed daughter walks. A human healed her. Some cheered. Some prayed. Many didn't believe it, but in the highest towers of Zaloria, inside the council's black marble chamber, no one celebrated. The alien council gathered under a ceiling of stars, their long robes shimmering like oil on water. They were the most powerful beings in the empire, rulers of armies, fleets, and laws. Yet tonight, their faces showed fear. This cannot be allowed, growled Elder Malrith, his voice echoing like thunder. One human does what our best science failed to do. Do you not see the danger? Another elder hissed. If humans can heal like this, what else are they hiding? Weapons? Armies? Powers we cannot control? They call themselves simple, a third elder muttered. But maybe we have been blind. Maybe we have been fools. The chamber fell silent at those words, because no one liked the idea of the empire looking weak. Finally, Elder Malrith spoke again. The human must be brought here, he said coldly. We will take his secrets. If he refuses, his eyes glinted like steel. Then we erase him. And the girl? Another elder asked. Malrith's mouth twisted. She will come too. The mother cannot protect her from us forever. That night, black-armored soldiers left the council towers in silent transports, heading toward Lady Vera's palace. But the council didn't know one thing. The human was waiting for them. Inside the palace, Lady Vera stood at the balcony, her daughter sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. The miracle had changed everything. The palace halls were filled with whispers, some of awe, some of fear. And in the courtyard below, the human sat on a stone bench, his metal case beside him, watching the night sky like he already knew what was coming. Lady Vera joined him at last. They will come for you, she said softly. The council doesn't like losing control, he nodded calmly. I know. You speak like you expected this, she said, narrowing her eyes. The man looked at her with that same strange calmness. Because it always happens this way. First they laugh. Then they fear. Then they fight. Her stomach tightened. Fight? No, you don't understand. The Council commands war fleets. They command armies. And I told you, he said softly, your empire has forgotten some things. Far above, black transports approach the palace, silent as shadows. The soldiers inside checked their weapons. Orders? One asked, take the human alive, the captain said coldly. Kill anyone who resists. The first transport landed in the courtyard with a hiss of steam. Black armored soldiers poured out, weapons glowing faintly in the moonlight. Lady Vera stepped forward angrily. This is my palace. You have no right, the captain cut her off. By order of the council, the human comes with us. He is under my protection, she snapped. The captain smirked. Then you protect him with your life. The soldiers turned toward the human, but he didn't move. He didn't run. He didn't even look surprised. Instead, he stood slowly, picked up his old metal case, and said quietly, do you want to know why your doctors failed? The captain frowned. What? You treat the body like a machine, the human said, his voice calm but carrying through the courtyard. But life is not a machine. Life fights back. It needs more than metal and code to survive. The soldiers raised their weapons. Enough, the captain snapped. You're coming with us. Lady Vera grabbed the man's arm. Please, she whispered, fear shaking her voice. If you fight them, they will kill you. The man looked at her, his eyes steady. No, they won't. Something in his tone made her freeze. The soldiers moved. Closer. The human finally opened his metal case. Inside, there were no weapons. No bombs. No glowing alien devices, just a small silver disc the size of a coin. He placed it on the ground. The soldiers laughed. That's it? That's your big secret? But when the disc activated, the laughter stopped. A pulse of energy spread silently through the courtyard, washing over the soldiers like invisible fire. Their weapons flickered. Their armor lights went dark. One by one, their rifles powered down. Their transport engines died. Even the palace lights dimmed. The entire courtyard fell into darkness except for the faint glow from the man's metal case. The human stood calmly in the center of it all. You think you own power, he said softly. But you've forgotten what real power looks like. The soldiers didn't move, because none of them could. That night, the council received a single message from the palace. Your soldiers failed. Send more if you dare. The courtyard was silent. Black armored soldiers stood frozen, their weapons useless, their transports dead like broken toys. The faint glow from the human's silver disc cast long shadows across the walls. Lady Vera stared, her heart pounding. She had seen warships, plasma cannons, alien storms that swallowed cities, but she had never seen one man shut down an entire squad with a device no bigger than a coin. The soldiers shifted nervously. What did you do? The captain stammered. The human's eyes were calm, almost cold. I turned off your toys, he said softly. Because they don't impress me. Far above in the council's towers, elders watched through crystal screens. He disables our weapons, one elder hissed. With a child's trinket. Elder Malrith's eyes burned. Kill him now. But on the screen, soldiers tried and failed to power up their rifles. Nothing worked. Not even their coms. The human stood in the center of the courtyard, untouched. And the council began to feel something they hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. Lady Vera stepped forward, her voice shaking. They will send more, she whispered. The council will not stop. The human turned to her. They will. If they're smart, why? She asked. He looked at Lyra, standing on trembling legs but holding herself proud. Because I didn't come here to fight them. I came here for her. That's all. Lyra's eyes widened. You risked everything. For me? He nodded once. Because life is worth saving. Even in a galaxy that forgets how precious it is. More transports arrived above the palace, engines glowing like angry stars. But this time, they didn't land. They hovered, waiting, watching. Because the council wanted answers before sending more soldiers to die. At last, a hologram crackled to life in the courtyard. Elder Malrath himself, his face stern and voice cold. Human, he said, his words echoing across the palace walls. You have defied the Empire. You have stolen power that does not belong to you. The man looked up calmly. Power does not belong to anyone. It is what you do with it that matters. Malrath's eyes narrowed. You will give us the secret of what you did to the girl. Or we will take it. The man smiled faintly. You can't take what you don't understand. The council elder leaned closer, his voice like ice. Then know this. You have made enemies today. The Empire does not forgive. It does not forget. The human stepped forward, his voice low but carrying through the entire courtyard. Neither does humanity, he said. The words hit like a storm. Because for centuries, the Empire had called humans weak, primitive, harmless. Now one man stood alone against them, and they couldn't touch him. Lady Vera's heart pounded. Please, she whispered to the man. Don't make this worse. They will come with fleets. They will burn everything. The man looked at her, then at Lyra, then back at the sky where the council ships hovered like vultures. And finally, he spoke. Then let them come, he said softly. But remember, this humans are patient. We build slowly, quietly. We bleed, we survive, we learn. And when we stand, no empire in the stars will push us down again. His words rolled through the courtyard. Like distant thunder, the council ships didn't attack. Not that night. Because for the first time, they weren't sure they would win. Lady Vera turned to him. Will you stay? Protect her? Protect us? The man shook his head. My work here is done. She can walk now. That was my promise, but they will come for her. She said desperately. Then teach her to stand strong, he replied. Not just on her legs, but in her heart. He placed the silver disc back into his metal case, its glow fading. Then he looked at Lyra one last time. Walk proudly. Never let them make you small again. By morning, the human was gone. No one saw him leave. No ships detected his path. It was as if he vanished into the stars themselves. But his warning remained, and so did the fear he left behind. Weeks later, the council tried to explain it away. They called it a trick, a rumor, a lie spread by human lovers. But in secret, they built new weapons. Stronger fleets. More spies. Because deep down, the Empire now knew a truth they couldn't erase. Humanity was not weak, and the next time humans rose, the galaxy would never be ready. Lady Vera watched her daughter walk through the palace gardens every morning, sunlight on her face, and she knew the Empire would come again someday. But she also knew this. The man who gave her child this gift had given the galaxy a warning it would never forget.